My husband and I are currently renovating a 2005 Wildwood travel trailer that our family of five will be moving into in just a few short weeks. We started renovations last week and discovered that there was a pretty bad leak in the roof. We spent a lot of last week uncovering all of the problems so that we could go ahead and fix them, which led to us cutting a huge hole in the ceiling of our brand new camper and discovering that this leak was an older leak and there was mold and it was just super disgusting. So we ended last week's video with this huge hole in our roof, and this week I'm going to show you how I'm going to repair the entire roof and kind of go over what mistakes we made so that you don't have to make them. So top priority this week is to really try and hurry up so that it does not rain on this project, because we already have water damage and we do not want there to be any more damage. So my husband is up here and is replacing this piece of plywood so that we have a solid roof again. The next step is to just prep this rubber membrane to lay back over this piece of plywood, and that just involves getting all of this tape and caulk off of it and getting it as clean as possible. This is what it looks like after everything was off of it so that it could just lay down over there as smooth as possible. Asher used flex glue to glue it down to the plywood, and then Eternabond tape to waterproof seal all of the edges. And I'll show you in a minute how to apply this tape. I've been ordering about half of our supplies from Amazon, and then the other half are coming from either Home Depot or Lowe's, just because we don't really have an RV store near us, and Prime has almost everything that we need at the same price or even less than the RV store was. So this is just some more of that Eternabond tape that I ordered off of Amazon, and I'll link all this stuff down below if you would like any. But this is like the best tape that I've heard of that you can use to help really waterproof seal your roof. And then these are just some new vent covers to go up on the roof, because the old ones were plastic and kind of like basically falling apart just from being out in the elements for so many years. We are doing this entire renovation on a very tight budget, and I'll be sharing what we end up spending on this project once we get everything finished. Our goal right now is really to stay under $3,000. And then this is the new skylight for our bathroom. This is like the outside part. There's also an inside part that we're going to have to buy and replace. But this is clear. The old one wasn't clear. It was frosted, I guess. And so we went ahead and got a brand new clear one. Again, it was plastic and it's kind of just falling apart when you remove the caulk around it to prep it to get ready to fix it. This is the older skylight. And I'll just show you. You got to remove like all of the caulk and everything on the roof before you can really reseal it and paint it. So that's just what we're doing here. You can just see here how the plastic part of the skylight is just tearing apart as we pull this caulk off. So while we were up working on the roof, a mother deer and her fawn came and were nibbling on some plants in the yard. A lot of people have asked where we have this camper parked, and we do have some family with some property out in a rural area of Tennessee. So we have it parked on their property while we're working on it, and it's very peaceful out there. We have great views of just the mountains. I'm really excited for the leaves to start changing out there. And then, of course, there's wildlife and deer, and there's a horse across the street. So we've really enjoyed being up on the roof. While it's a lot of work, it is peaceful to just go up there and get to enjoy the views. So here we're going to be putting the Eternabond tape down. And this tape is awesome and is really helpful in helping to waterproof the membrane of the roof. This is something that we are going to take with us and make sure that we always have with us while we're traveling. In case we notice a tear or anything like that, we can just quickly patch up the spot so that we can prevent any like water damage. This tape is incredibly sticky, and once you touch it to the surface, you can't move it. So make sure that it's lined up perfectly and exactly where you want it before you stick it down. And then you also want to make sure that there is no bumps in the tape. So just very, very slowly take the backing of it off and push it down to make sure that it's completely flat. And to learn from our mistakes or almost mistakes, number one, make sure that you are not cutting the tape on the surface of the RV. Obviously, I would get a towel. I had a really thick towel up there so that I could bear down when I was cutting the tape, because it is pretty thick and our knife wasn't very sharp because, you know, we didn't replace the blade. But you can cut it on like a really thick towel over top of the RV, but you don't want to cut the membrane of the roof. The membrane of your roof is very, very fragile. And then also the side, like this Eternabond comes in a roll, and the side of it is kind of sticky. So don't lay the side of it down on the camper because it can get stuck also. So I laid it on top of the towel instead of on the roof membrane. And this was at sunset when the sun was going down, and I am just super excited for all these leaves to start changing. They're starting to change, but in just a couple weeks, they're going to be beautiful. After we put the Eternabond tape down, Asher didn't get this on film, but he screwed the new sunroof on, and now we are just caulking around the edges and all the screw holes with this self-leveling lap sealant, which I will link that down below. Also, you want to use the self-leveling lap sealant on the roof, and it just is another barrier to prevent water from getting in there. So this is just barrier on top of barrier on top of barrier, just to make sure that no water gets into the RV. This was the end of our day one. Day two started with a huge line of thunderstorms coming right towards our camper, and we were in the car trying to get there before the storm hit so that we could cover up what we could. Just so you know, there was a 0% chance of rain in the forecast, but this is us. We live an hour away from where the camper is, so we were having to drive an hour to get to it. Just so you know, we did not make it. It had poured and was over by the time we got there. But that did leave the camper roof wet, and on the task for today was to clean the camper roof, and so it being wet was actually helpful. So I just used some basic cleaner that I got from the dollar store and just scrubbed the roof of the camper. And this is to prep it to put down some liquid rubber, and I'm going to be putting 3 coats of liquid rubber on the roof. There's a lot of information out there on like what to put on a roof to seal it, and a lot of different options and a lot of more affordable options. But we went with the more expensive one just because I wanted to make sure that it really worked. And if I was going to put this much time and effort into it, I did want to make sure that it was going to work and last well. Also, our roof really, the entire rubber membrane needed to be replaced. And, we also debated that, but we decided just to patch it up the best that we could and see if that worked. But this dollar store cleaner worked really, really well. This is the camper before, and this is after with just some pretty light scrubbing. The roof was extremely slippery, so definitely be very careful. And yeah, I just cleaned it and hosed it off, and it was good to go. This week we had a lot of half days, shorter days, just because we had to wait for everything to dry between phase 1 and phase 2. This is day 3, and we just caulked everything else with this self-leveling lap sealant to make sure that there was no leaks before I put on the liquid rubber roof coating. With this, you want to put it on super thick. This was like one of the things that I was like, I felt like I was putting way, way too much on, but you want it to be thick because it is a water barrier. The reason you want to use the self-leveling lap sealant for the roof is just because it is going to continue to settle and get into all the creases and crevices as it dries. Before you put the caulk on, you want to make sure that your surface is super clean so that it sticks really well. And then also you're putting this on so thick and so much that, my hand was super cramping up by the end of the afternoon. But I basically came to the conclusion that you really can't put too much of this on. So be generous. When you're filling in the middle, swirly whirlies, spread it the easiest. Today, I start putting on the new rubber roof coating. This is the primer, and everything that I read said that it was pretty much optional. But I decided to just go ahead and spend the extra $80 and the time to put this primer on just to make sure that the coating worked. This liquid rubber kind of comes in like a 3-part system where it comes with the cleaner, the primer, and then the actual paint. I opted not to use their cleaner, but I did use the primer and then the paint. So this primer is really thin, and the point of it is you put it on, and then as it dries, it gets really sticky. So it is going to help the liquid rubber stick to the coating of your roof. And the first step I did throughout this entire process is I cut in and then I would start rolling. So this is just me cutting in with this primer. And make sure, this is a mistake that I learned, is that you do it in very small sections because you cannot even touch this with your hand without it super sticking to it, or step on it with your shoe without it super sticking on it. So just be prepared that wherever you put this down, once it dries, you can't touch it anymore. And it only took about, when the sun was out, it took maybe 10, 15 minutes for it to dry. But once the sun went down, it took it maybe at least 30 minutes for it to dry, which is a lesson that I learned. The directions say not to apply the liquid rubber in direct sunlight, but that meant just because of the position of where the camper was that we were having to wait until the evenings to apply it. So I was waiting until the sun was starting to go down, and that was a huge mistake, which I'll show you why in just a minute. You also want to make sure that you get all the edges of the camper, including around this little lip right here. You'll want to go down just a little bit around the whole thing. And then you can tell that it's dry when you touch it. It is just kind of sticky and your fingers kind of stick to it just a little bit. So this is me applying the first coat of liquid rubber. I ended up applying 3 coats. You could probably get away with 2, but I went ahead and did 3. This you want to put on really, really thick. It took me a little bit to again, it's not paint. It is a liquid rubber coat. So this is a little bit thin. It was the first coat, so it kind of, was getting stuck to it. But I would put it on even thicker than I did with this first coat. And this is me kind of realizing to put it on a little bit thicker. You just glob it up on your paintbrush and just throw it down in there. And you want to get it, when you're putting it on where the tape is, you want to make sure that it's getting in the crevices of the tape. And then, of course, I'm going to cut in along all of the edges and down around this side also. This is where it became real hard to reach stuff because everything was sticky. So I was having to lean over this AC unit. So it took about an hour for that to dry, and now I'm just going to start applying the primer, the sticky primer, to the entire roof. And I'm just going to use a roller. This is a 3/8 roller to sections of the roof. Don't do the whole thing because it gets sticky. I didn't do that though. I did know to do it in sections. I did a section in the back side of the camper, and then I'd come over and roll a section to the front side on the front side of the camper so that the back side could be drying while I was rolling the front, and then hopefully the back would be dry so I could start putting the first coating of liquid rubber on that. And it did take an additional little bit for it to dry. It wasn't completely done. I was able to take a little bit of a break. But this is me having to step on it because I did too big of a section and my shoe would get stuck. So just remember, that section was too big. It's also just a little bit of a learning process to know how much to put on and how to roll it out, because it never really rolled on super smooth, because you do want it to be super thick. And just knowing how much to put on and how to smear it around and stuff, just a learning process. So like I had said before, kind of like waiting until the sun went down was not a good idea because everything stopped drying once the sun went away. So I was like, it's ended up getting too dark to finish, and I had a little bit of a section left because it just wasn't drying. And then another issue that I didn't think about was the dew overnight and just moisture collecting on the roof, which was so frustrating because it basically ruined this whole first coat, or at least part of it. Part of it had dried the night before, but everything that I had put on towards the end of the afternoon just got wet and ran off. So that was really frustrating. So that was really why I ended up putting 3 coats on. I thought I was only going to do 2, but I kind of did like 2.5 because that first coat only kind of was effective. So while I was waiting for the morning sun to dry the roof, I am going to open a present that I got. And a company sent this to me to kind of test out, that I'm going to be testing out more next week. This week I just kind of got it opened up. But it is a portable power station, and it's like a battery that has a bunch of different charging ports, and then also a solar panel that comes with it, so that we would be able to take this off grid with us and kind of use it to charge all of our devices, use it as like a light and just stuff like that. And it's got a solar panel with it so that it can be easily recharged when you're off grid. So it obviously came with a little user manual. I am not very techy, and I really don't know anything about generators or solar panels or batteries or anything like that. That's something I'm learning about. So this will be helpful for me. It is pretty heavy. It's a big battery, and it has all different types of ports on it. So you could use it to power or charge all different types of devices. This is kind of cool. I like it. Yeah. And I was also sent these solar panels. They're waterproof portable solar panels that can connect to this power station to charge it. And these are super cool. They have like this little handle on them and a kickstand in the back. And these were just pretty cool. Again, I don't know anything about solar panels or anything yet. So I feel like this is a really cool introduction to like understanding how solar panels work, and it's super convenient to be able to just fold them up and take them with you. It also came with like these cords that I think you can connect multiple different solar panels to help charge the power pack even faster. Falcon, Falcon, do you like your new solar panel? Yeah? You helping me get them set up? But these were super easy to set up. You just set them outside in direct sunlight, and I just plugged it in and it started charging right away.
7169.
It came like 48% charged.
Is that what you're asking?
This was right after I had plugged it up. Since I am the one who's painting the roof, Asher is inside and he's working on some electrical stuff. We're moving this master bedroom wall around a little bit, and are kind of reconfiguring the way that it was before. So he's just watching Falcon, our 10-month-old, and working on what he can while he's watching the baby. And then this was just like an hour later, it had jumped up from 48% to 61%. And it was kind of a partly cloudy day, so it wasn't like sunny the entire time. At this point, the roof is dry and I am applying the kinda second coat. I did already cut in, I just didn't film everything. But so I had already cut in and now I'm just starting on rolling sections of the roof. So I had got the whole roof completely painted the day before, and now it is day 6, and I am going to put the last and final coat of liquid rubber. Because I had done it earlier in the day, the roof successfully dried before the sunset and the dew got on the roof. I did have to wait until like mid-morning at least to start painting, just so that the roof had time to dry, because I don't even feel like it's super humid here, but just like the condensation in the dew on the roof in the morning was a lot. So, And again, this isn't paint, this is liquid rubber, so you want to put it on just way thicker than you would a paint. At this point, I feel like I got the hang of it. And when you're spreading this coating, make sure you kind of do like a thinner coat all the way across the top so you can just go back and forth. I was kind of globbing it more in the middle and not going all the way to the each edge. And it's just a lot easier to spread when you do it from edge to edge. We had bought a big 5-gallon bucket of this liquid rubber, but it was really heavy to carry up and down the ladder. So I used this 1-gallon bucket and just refilled it throughout the process. And I wanted to take a minute to say thank you so much to everybody who has helped support my channel. I have received enough donations that I was able to pay for this RV roof coating, and the donations covered the cost of this. So this was an unexpected expense that we had with this camper. I didn't expect to have to like completely redo the roof. So thank you guys so much. If you guys would like to continue to help support my channel, I will leave a link down below. It's to buy me a coffee, like a $5 cup of coffee, but I've been using almost all of my money on the camper. I did go by Starbucks once this week and got a fall coffee. So thank you guys so much for that also.
Whoa! Yeah. I don't understand why some of this is like, this bucket is like dripping, and so like.
Yeah, so be careful. The roof can be very slippery when it's wet. I got this all over my feet, and not only was it slippery, but I also had fun scrubbing my feet. I didn't wear shoes just because my shoes were getting like, they were dirty on the bottom and they were getting the camper dirty, so I went barefoot. But it's also slippery, you know. Just be careful. So I'm almost done with the final coat, and it's thundering. Awesome. There was a 0% chance of rain when I woke up this morning.